This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson!
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
wow. Okay. If you ever wondered what happens when you put a speedway car on a tarmac racetrack, well, folks, you are about to find out, because tonight, from Week 4, Season 4 of the just ended iRacing series, coming to you live right here on SimSpeed TV, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put the dirt track configured legend car on the tarmac Okayama circuit in Japan. A very good evening, everybody. I'm Lockie Mansell. Joining me in commentary tonight is Ryan Jones. As mentioned, it's Week 4, Season 4 of the just ended iRacing series. And Ryan, as part of my, I won't call it testing, but I'll call it research in preparation for tonight, I actually turned some laps in the dirt configured legend car
That's dangerous.
on the tarmac racetrack just to see what it was like. And probably the best way of describing it is that it felt like driving on pogo sticks.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's a quality you really want in your race car, but it's one that's not surprising, is it? Given that this is the legend car built for the dirt as opposed to the road. So, yeah, I think we might see a few surprises tonight. The first of which has already been announced to drivers and a surprise to us as well. It's a reverse top 20. So we're going to have some fast drivers buried in the middle of the pack. And we know in Just Send It, the sort of chaos the middle of the pack usually brings. Plus only one fast repair at their disposal tonight.
It's going to be one of those sorts of races, I reckon, where if you can somehow manage to stay out of trouble and keep it on the black stuff, that will be an achievement in itself. Because I can tell you that compared to a normal race car, just to keep the thing on the straight and narrow with the handling characteristics of these cars, it's very, very difficult. You're having to exercise. Probably the best way to describe the type of throttle control that you have to exercise with the handling of these cars the way it is it's a bit like, imagine that there's a wasp taped to the accelerator pedal, so obviously you're not wanting to tread on it at all, and you're certainly not wanting to tread on it hard. And then a lot of steering inputs as well. A bit like Doc Hudson from the Cars movies, you really do have to turn left to be able to go right.
You do indeed. It's going to be interesting. I think we've covered that. I'm looking forward to this one. Wonderful to see a surprise winner again, like a couple weeks ago when Mira somehow got her second win in the series. Or will it be one of the regulars that dominate? Guys like people Webster, Job Stewart, Jackson Harlow, who's not actually part of the grid tonight. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the grid, Lockie.
Cars coming out onto the grid now and starting to form up, ready for the race start. Just waiting for our actual grid positions to come up on the screen, bearing in mind, of course, that we do have the top 20 reverse grid format tonight, so a bit of a jumbled order. And there we go, Anthony Contarino on pole position ahead of Justin Howe. Jordan MULACH out of third position, back then to Matt Lupino, Jay Cool, Cameron Gall, Jackson Griffith and Emerson Harvey, and then Brenton Hobson and Tyler Howard rounding out your top 10 starters.
Harvey Price, Harrison Dengate on row 6, and you got Mitchell McLeod, Caleb Hides, Marcello Rivera, Blake Purdy, Cooper Webster, and Andy Carey, and then your fastest qualifiers, Jordan Caruso and Job Stewart.
Over the page we go to Scott Nolan and Steve Jansen, Aaron Dillon back there ahead of Lee Harrison, Brad Newman, Michael Skurlock, Bailey Bell, Cohen Attard, Ryan Shooter, and the omnipresent Jonathan Bykoff rounding out your top 30 as we get ourselves underway. Week 4, Season 4 of Just Send It here at Okayama. Watch as they negotiate their way through turn number 1 and look at how sideways they're all getting through that corner. Basically drifting around the turn into turn number 2, and you can see how much the rear ends of these cars are sliding around. Like I said, just keep these cars on the straight and narrow and somehow pointing in the approximate direction where you want it to go is quite the achievement in itself.
So out onto the back straight, we roll for the first time. I was about to say surprisingly clean. Then there was drama in the middle somewhere as a couple cars went around. So your race leader down into that final corner at the back of the back straight, or the first corner I should say. Justin Howe trying to get by Contarino, who's managed to hold the lead and keeps it. So the draft not playing a huge factor, not on this first lap anyway. Lapino sitting in third. And then side by side is Brenton Hobson around the outside of Jordan MULACH, who's dropped a bunch of spots here on lap 1. Started third, back to 7th place now, and Emerson Harvey is looking to challenge him as well.
One of the things that you'll notice, Ryan, is that the draft won't actually make that much of a difference with these cars because they're geared for the speedway as well. So that means that the top speed is nowhere near as high as what it is for the tarmac versions of these cars. And there's some of the carnage that we expected. Brenton Hobson's in that. The number 88 car has gone spinning down the order. You can see there coming out of turn number 9 that one car just got a little bit sideways, getting on the power a bit too early and too hard, which it's so easy to do in these cars, and sideswiped the car that was alongside.
I just watched Jordan Caruso drive it around the outside, literally on the grass and the gravel through the last 2 corners, and he actually picked up spots in doing it. So watch for that to be an option if drivers find themselves with nowhere to go through there. Obviously these cars certainly do handle well on the dirt, and you can see again there using all of the available racetrack and then some. A little bit up the road there is an almighty battle as up the inside looks Blake Purdy sneaking it by, and in front of him as he passed MULACH, they're 3 wide. Emerson Harvey has got contact and a meeting with the concrete, and with a bunch of...
You could see that happening, couldn't you, as they bounced back onto the racetrack out of that corner. The rest of the field left with absolutely nowhere to go. We saw a couple of drivers using...
other cars, wild tumble.
We saw a few drivers using a bit of the grass and the gravel trap there as well. Rhino, we've got more dramas down here at the hairpin. Turn number 8, which typically is one of the main overtaking opportunities, and the problem that these drivers are going to have to deal with is if you do get a bit loose coming through a corner, it's very hard to then be able to correct the car, and we've already seen a few examples of that. But you know what, Ryan? The best strategy in this race might actually be to drive on the grass and drive in the gravel traps, because that's basically what these cars are set up for.
Yeah, it is. And you avoid a lot of the drama that's happening on the black stuff at the moment. As side-by-side through there, we're seeing a lot of side-by-side 3 wide and 4 wide action. That's Jay Cool up on the outside, out in the weeds. Andy Carey in there as well. This is for just outside of the top 10. Job Stewart actually in 11th place now. Make that 9th, so he climbs in. He's just in front of these guys. Webster as well, making his way forward. Ahead of Mitchell McLeod, he's still at the front of the shot there. He makes that one stick, so he's on his way forward. Our biggest mover so far. Job Stewart is up 11 spots. Look at that. Blake Purdy's up 9. And Cooper Webster's up 10. Caruso's up 9 as well.
Yeah, so some of those fast drivers that qualified really well and started at the tail end of the top 20 starting to make their presence felt, slicing their way up through the field. Best lap of the race so far, Cooper Webster, 1 minute 52.9. He sits in position 6 at the moment, just behind Blake Purdy, and you can see that there'll be overtaking manoeuvres on in earnest when they get down to the hairpin.
At the hairpin, Andy Contorino goes around and he collects a couple others with him. Justin Howe, so your race leader, lost the rear end all by himself and looped it up at the hairpin. Here's a replay. Look to the right. As you'll see in a second, a car losing it. There he goes, and Howe has nowhere to go.
And poor Anthony Contorino, who'd done such a good job of controlling the race from the front, he will be kicking himself for that mistake. So it's now Matt Lupino into the lead. Blake Purdy up into second position, but 5.2 seconds away from our race leader, Matt Lupino at this stage. Tyler Howard sitting in third ahead of Jordan Caruso. And Mitchell McLeod, who will, of course, have his avid Twitch followers following on. Here comes Blake Purdy.
Certainly not 5 seconds behind him. He's alongside him. There's contact in a straight line. And that's Mitchell McLeod going around in a straight line. He does a cool 360 and keeps it going. As it is with 3 wide for the lead of the race, Lupino got shuffled back. They're still crashing. As you look at this replay, this is McLeod getting turned around right there and somehow gathered it up. Now, if you go back to live pictures, they were 3 wide. Jordan Caruso has emerged in the lead of the race.
It was Job Stewart who made contact with the back of Mitchell McLeod's car on the main straight, and with these cars again being so loose and so twitchy on the tarmac, only takes a very light touch to unsettle the car. And that, unfortunately, is what happened to Mitchell McLeod. As we look at the battle for the race lead, Blake Purdy, Jordan Caruso, Cooper Webster's right there now, and so too is Job Stewart, along with Tyler Howard. So a big battle group of cars fighting it out for the lead as Blake Purdy goes down the inside of Jordan Caruso into turn 8. The cars will run side by side on the exit. Tyler Howard up the inside of Cooper Webster as well. Webster right out through the gravel. Like I said, potentially the faster line here. And look at that, he's not really lost much in the way of momentum at all. But Howard wants to make a fight of it, bangs into the door of Cooper Webster as they head up towards the next left-hander at turn number 9.
Job Stewart up at the hairpin, by the way, lost it on the brakes and spun around, and much similar to Contorino's issue. He spun back onto the racing line and got caught up in a big mess. So that's relieved some of the pressure from behind for this quartet of drivers, as Howard is going to come to pit road and get his pit stop out of the way. So he's going to get out of this mess and see if he can put down some fast laps in some clean air. Jordan Caruso going to lead them across the stripe after an eventful lap. Tyler Howard second, Blake Purdy only third, but now he's going to take that second spot back away up the inside at turn 1. More drivers coming to pit lane, and that is someone flying through the air.
Brad Newman, it was there flying through pit lane. So the cars that have come in to pit lane, Cooper Webster, Jay Cool, Job Stewart, all in the pit. So too Anthony Contorino and Lee Harrison. Remember, and we talk about it every week in Just Send It, there's always a competition caution that comes out at some stage during the race. You want to make sure that you've got your compulsory pit stop done before the competition caution comes out.
Look at this dual drag race. Andy Carey and Tyler Howard. Carey on the right-hand side, on the inside for the hairpin. So Howard might be better off to let him go here, and he does. Carey, in fact, really deep on the brakes and just gets it pulled up. Mitchell McLeod behind there as well. He's battling with Matt Lupino.
The lap times are really not flash compared to what you normally see from legend cars around here, and obviously that's due to the less than ideal handling characteristics along with the very, very short gear ratios that mean that they don't get anywhere near what their top speed would be in tarmac configuration. Good battle on here at the moment between Andy Carey and Tyler Howard, those two cars squabbling over positions 3 and 4. But in real life, Ryan, the legend cars, that's one of the great things about these cars, is that you can race them in both speedway and tarmac configuration, and it's only about a 2-hour process to change the car from one setup to the other. So it makes it a very, very economical way, if you enjoy both speedway and circuit racing, to be able to do both with one vehicle.
It does, which is a very appealing aspect about these cars. So for Howard now, and for Carey, they've really got to work together and try to pull a really big gap now that Jordan Caruso and Blake Purdy have pitted, because if they don't, they'll find themselves getting jumped massively before this competition caution comes out. Similarly, they have to make sure they pit before that competition caution, otherwise they are going to be in for a world of hurt. They've got a 2.5 second gap back to Mitchell McLeod, 5 seconds back to Howard. The gaps keep getting bigger. A massive spread now across the top 10 after what was a very big battle for a moment between the two, between the race leaders.
This race broadcast proudly brought to you by Kart Sport New Zealand. Great to have their support for this particular broadcast.
Is it?
Andy Carey still your race leader ahead of Tyler Howard.
It is now. Andy Carey and Tyler Howard, yes. This is a great scrap. And that's the lock of the brakes, which, to be honest, is happening at most of the corners. They're not exactly renowned for their braking performances, these things, or their rear stability either in dirt mode.
And it looks like both of our race leaders are going to come into the pits this time around. Jay, I'll tell you what, Tyler Howard only just made it into the pit entry. Then you could see that he was really struggling to get the car turned in.
He's passed him!
Racing to pit lane.
That's how you do it. You can't get it done. That takes the expression of get the overtake done in pit lane to a whole new meaning. You often talk about it when you're talking about strategy and leapfrogging them in the pits, but he's literally just driven past him on the entry. So he's clearly practiced that a bit more than Carey had. So here is Cooper Webster. I remember he pitted early from the lead battle as well. And in fact, he's the leading car who has pitted. So that early pit stop served him very well. And as he comes across, he will take the lead of the race, as Howard and McLeod rejoin now. And Carey, well, he's had a shockingly slow stop.
There's still a few other cars that haven't stopped yet. Cohen Attard, Jordan MULACH, Christina Nasri yet to pit, but like you say, Cooper Webster the highest placed of the cars that has pitted. And I think that Cooper Webster has worked out that, yes, you're actually better off with the way these cars are set up, driving it off the racetrack as much as you can. We've seen Webster using a lot of the grass and a lot of the gravel traps, and it's not really slowing him down at all. He goes firing up the inside of Tim Mitchell. And look at that, Cooper Webster just driving it straight through the grass on the back straight.
So he's in 6th place. He's the net race leader. Watch those 5 in front of him pit. That's Mitchell diving out of the way. His battle is not with the guys around him right now. That is Webster, Caruso, Howard, McLeod, Stewart, and Purdy, who are all in the battle for the effective race leaders. Webster, Caruso, throwing it through the kitty litter. And Howard squeezing up the inside of Mitchell in the background.
Last time we saw drivers use this a little of the track was when we had the Pro 2 light trucks at Oran Park.
Would you say it's using as little of the track or using as much of the track?
As little of the tarmac. Oh, we've got a 3-car incident coming out of turn 9. Mitchell McLeod's one of the drivers involved in that. A couple of other cars that have been
Mitchell
tangled up in that one as well.
That looks like Mitchell and Purdy, potentially the other two involved. Mitchell, definitely. Purdy, I would also say definitely. So, that's a shame for both of those guys. Fortunately, Caution will come to save them at some point in the next 20, I would say next 20 minutes, really. So we actually have a green flag finish here at Okayama in Japan. The only way we're visiting any tracks overseas at the moment. So you can take those two corners away from the racetrack because they're not being used anymore.
Of course, for those of you not familiar with the Legend cars here in Australia, it is a series that has become quite popular in the last couple of years. We've seen that it's run as a national series. We've seen that there's been drivers like James Burge who've gone really well in this category and have had the opportunity to compete overseas at some of the big Legend cars events over in America. And like I say, they're popular on both tarmac and in speedway competition here in Australia. And there are a few drivers like Kyle Angel and Greg Davis and Glenn Mitchell and Liam Heaton and a few others who've done both, who've competed on both the tarmac and in speedway competition. Here we go. A change of position here as Jordan Caruso goes down the inside of Cooper Webster. Webster fighting back on the outside into turn 9.
Oh no!
And contact between the two of them, they're both off and into the grass. And I think just managing to keep it off the time wall there, but that's going to cost both Cooper Webster and Jordan Caruso a couple of positions. Job Stewart and Tyler Howard both move on through.
So that was for the net race lead at the time. Now, that puts them back to 3rd and 4th and 5th overall because Attard still hasn't pitted. Really impressed they both kept it off the fence. As soon as they started to head towards that tyre wall on the outside, they both jammed on those brakes and kept themselves out of trouble. Not what Purdy, McLeod and Mitchell did when they had a very similar incident just a lap ago. And those guys have really suffered as a result because there's Purdy. He's in 14th, right ahead of Mark Wicks, sliding up the inside of the next car in front. That's Christina Nazarek.
Christina Nazarek running very distinctive all-pink livery there. This is a pretty good contest, actually, between these drivers. They've actually come out just behind Jordan Mulach, in fact, who has taken his pit stop now. So, like you say, the only car that hasn't yet stopped is Cohen Attard. You want to be getting his pit stop out of the way pretty soon. Otherwise, he'll be in real danger of getting trapped out there when the safety car comes out.
Mulach's done a really good job out of all of this, I think. Started 3rd, obviously qualified about 17th, that means, in terms of his actual pace, and now he's finding himself running in 12th, so he's found a pretty big gain on his actual qualifying speed, as opposed to the drivers that qualified well, had to come through the field.
I'm trying to work out what Jordan Mulach's done with his livery this week. We see that he likes to run these very, very distinctive paint schemes. It looks like he's gone for... I don't know what that livery is that he's running this week.
It's a Tiger. It's a blue Tiger. Well, I know Christina Nazarek's is basically the Pink Panther. Trying to think of... What's that tiger's name from Winnie the Pooh?
Tigger.
Tigger. Did you just say Tiggy, Fonty? Fonty's directing this one.
So we've got Tigger versus the Pink Panther, and the Pink Panther got the position at the last corner, but Tigger back down the inside into turn 1 and recaptures that position. So the contest for positions 12 and 13 continues between Jordan Mulach and Christina Nazarek. Christina Nazarek was having a really, really good run in the Porsche Carrera Cup cars at Phillip Island last week, where she got up into the top 10 until a late altercation with another car saw her falling down the order.
It wouldn't be a just end it race without there being an altercation. without many people falling down the order. I think 9 times out of 10 in Just Senate, the race winner has had an incident at some point during the race. Justin Howell, though, I think that incident is going to put him a bit too far back. In fact, it's going to put him back in the garage. About to cross off the halfway mark as well. So we are going to have quite a sprint on our hands when we do eventually go into caution and then back to green flag conditions.
Cohen Ahard's still out there and leading the race by 21.4 seconds. However, he is losing time to the cars behind. He was 3.5 seconds slower than Cooper Webster last time through.
Look at those dirt tyres too.
Yeah, well,
through them.
Well, that's one of the main reasons why they're so much of a handful on the tarmac and are probably better on a low grip surface.
Explain that to us, then, Lockie. What do the grooves help with? Time for Lockie.
On Speedway, of course, the grooves help bite into the clay surface on the Speedway, so that you actually have better grip. They don't work so well on tarmac because obviously it means that you don't really have a lot of rubber in contact with the surface of the road.
And that is why everyone, when they can, is taking the scenic route around this racetrack because they're finding a bit more grip on the grass, which you would normally expect to have about negative 200% grip as opposed to the tarmac. So the caution comes out. We're under our competition caution then for today, as we expected to happen at some point. And as expected, Cohen Attard is going to feel the pinch because he is going to drop right down the order. Gotta say, we're not a big fan of that strategy from Cohen.
No, well, he left his pit stop too late, didn't he? And now he's going to pay the price. We've been saying for a couple of laps, haven't we, Ryan, that he needed to get in and get his stop out of the way, and he hasn't done so. And now the result of that is he's going to fall way down the order when he has to come into the pits with the field now being all bunched up.
Yeah, he can't pit, of course, until everyone's caught the pace car. That's why in iRacing, not pitting until the pace car comes out is such a huge disadvantage, as opposed to real life. The other aspect being that everyone races back to the safety car at full tilt instead of slowing down.
While we're under this safety car period, Ryan, let's go through some of our sim racing news of the week, powered by simracingoz.com, Australia's leading sim racing news website, and a fair bit of
Australia's only sim racing news site.
Australia's first and only sim racing news website, and probably the biggest news of the last week, Ryan, has been the mass exodus of drivers from the Altus Esports team. We saw a number of drivers exiting the Simon Feigl-owned Logitech G Altus Esports squad, including Dane Warren, who has been competing for that team in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, and also Jackson Suzlin Harlow, who is one of the regular frontrunners in the Just Send It series.
It is an odd turn of events that I don't think many people saw coming. Certainly an explanation for it. The explanation, though, couldn't be coaxed out of Jackson Harlow in one of his post-race interviews a few days ago. I can't actually remember exactly what he said. It's on my page. If you want to go see what he said, because I can't remember it right now off the top of my head.
Simon Feigl didn't really elaborate either.
Yeah, Harlow's was a cagey answer. You know those answers where you say a lot without actually saying anything?
Where you have to read between the lines to work out what was actually being said, yes.
A bit like commentating. Saying a lot without actually saying anything.
Seeing some weird lines being taken by some of the drivers here, particularly Job Stewart in the number 30 car. Not quite sure what these drivers are doing.
having fun.
Maybe they're trying to wear off those grooves from the tyres so that they've got rubber that's more like a slick tyre. And they're hoping that it'll give them a bit more grip when we get a race start.
That was a surprisingly sophisticated suggestion that Fonzie just gave you then. But
it makes sense.
It does, yeah. I would also say that I actually have absolutely no idea what I was getting at. I was hoping, as I said that sentence, something could come to mind. But to be honest, I'm not surprised. It is Just Send It that was seeing something wacky. As soon as I saw the combo for tonight, I expect there's something weird, and so caution's provided. Gonna have about a 15-minute sprint to the end here, Lockie, so this is gonna be a wild finish.
Yeah, especially if what we've seen in the first 25 minutes of the race is anything to go by. Bit of other sim racing news to go through. So we had quite a controversial weekend, not last weekend, but the weekend before, where the Porsche Esports Super Cup round ended up being declared null and void. No championship points were awarded, and that came down to some miscalculations in the sprint race, which saw a number of drivers not having enough fuel to get home, including a couple of the front-running Australian drivers.
Yeah, that decision went down well.
Very controversial, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you make of that, Ryan? Because it seems that whichever way the series organisers went, they weren't going to be able to please everybody. They declared it null and void, but there were some teams that argued, well, hang on, we did our homework, we worked out that the race was going to go for an extra lap, and they felt that they were not being rewarded for having done their homework in the lead up to the race.
I think if you look at the situation and what they're racing for and the responses from everyone involved, I think you can make your own opinion, Lockie. I don't want to get involved in that.
So you're sitting on the fence with that one?
Yep. I've had some jabs in previous broadcasts. I've said my piece. It is what it is, I guess. It's history now.
Fair enough.
You know what I say, Lockie? Let's go back racing.
So, safety car lights are out. Safety car is heading back into pit lane, and we are ready for a resumption of play here in Week 4, Season 4 of Just Send It. It's Jordan Caruso who leads the race ahead of Jake Cool, Andy Carey, Job Stewart, and Cooper Webster back underway. 12 minutes and 20 seconds remaining on the clock.
Andy Carey being chased all the way down to the inside of the track by Job Stewart, running a similar livery to Tyler Howard. Wasn't able to make the move stick, so good defense from Carey there. Caruso pulling a good margin after backing the field up through the last corner, which caused quite a bit of congestion through there, like some rush hour traffic as everyone stacked up nose to tail. Cameron Dance, 35th place he started. He's up into 8th, make that 7th as he makes the move on Caleb Hides. He is charged through this field.
According to our timing information, Caleb Hides is yet to do his pit stop as well, so he's going to have to stop under green flag conditions, and that will see him falling down the order, obviously.
Look at the leaders. Side by side.
Oh, can he get it stopped? Yes, just. Nice move there from Jay Cool, and here comes Andy Carey to the outside of Job Stewart as well. We've seen how effectively you can make up time if you run out through the gravel, and this might just about work here for Andy Carey as he squeezes in front of Job Stewart on the exit of turn number 8.
Well, the outside works there because he can just open up the throttle, let it breathe, because he knows he's still going to have pace even if he runs off the track, and he's able to pinch Caruso down where Caruso has to lift off the throttle. So the outside really strong through those corners, and again through the last 2 corners here, although it hasn't quite worked for Caruso because Stewart's completed the move, Caruso slipped and slid even, and Webster's going to follow through as well. So Caruso, in the end, a shocking restart, goes from 1st all the way back to 5th.
Yeah, he got hung out 1 out and 1 wide, didn't he, Jordan Caruso, on that lap? So he's found himself drifting backwards quite a few spots, and in fact Tyler Howard's going to be lining up for a move on Caruso as well. So some more spots lost there. The battle was still on for the race lead though, as Andy Carey pulls up alongside Jay Cool. Those 2 cars will run side by side down through turn number 3 and 4. Very, very important here to get a good exit from turn number 4. Oh, contact in the background there. That was Cooper Webster was involved in that. He's gone into the side of Cameron Dance, who's gone flying off the circuit at turn number 4 and rejoins just ahead of Steve Jansen.
I am not sorry for putting the curse on you there, Cam. It was all you. Carey completes the move up at the hairpin. Great move on the inside line. Got the run off the 4th corner and made it stick. So he leads now. And Job Stewart right up on the back of Jay Cool as well. The top 3 have broken away from the 4-way scrap, or make it a 5-way scrap behind them for 3rd. 4th. I can't count.
So Andy Carey, 1 minute 53.1, was the fastest driver on the circuit last time around. As we've got Blake Purdy getting turned around out of 9th position. He'll fall back to 13th as a result of that one.
The rejoin has put him on his lid. Or on his side, to be precise. He rejoined on the outside of what became 3 wide and got pitched up onto 2 tyres. The weight of the car tipped him over. So he's out of the race now.
8.5 minutes to go. And Andy Carey has opened up a margin of just over half a second from Jay Cool, who's under pressure from Job Stewart. Cooper Webster tucked in behind Tyler Howard. Then we go back to Caleb Hines, who has still yet to pit, incidentally.
Are we sure he's not pitted?
Well, timing says he's not pitted yet. Brenton Hobson in 8th position as well, yet to pit too, according to our timing information, which can sometimes be prone to inaccuracies.
It is timing being supplied to us by Fonte, so take it with a pinch of salt. Now, there's 2 ways I can see this strategy working, or at least the damage being minimalised. Pitting on the last lap, somehow, or not pitting, ever.
That could work, but if you choose not to pit, then you risk running out of fuel, don't you, at the end?
Well, I've not got far to go at this point. Let me pull up the garage here. What's the fuel tank size? Well, I mean, the fuel... okay. 20-litre tank. Hobson's around.
Oh,
Hobson's
no,
been hit.
you could see that coming, couldn't you? Gets rear-ended by Jordan Mulak. Here comes Christine Nazarick up the inside. So, Brenton Hobson, who was engaged in a battle with Jordan Caruso at the time, and as he's looked to try and get back onto the racetrack,
He was hit by Tigger.
He's copped a bite from the Tiger car of Jordan MULACH, and that has elevated Christina Nazarick up into the top 10. And I'm not going to say anything more about how well she's going after what happened last week.
I thought you were banned this week because of that. Might make it 9th place now. Brenton Hobson just off her nose. Gotta say, Kerry is stretching his legs. 1.6 seconds the margin. Back to Job Stewart, who's finally found his way by Cool. We'll keep an eye on that as we look here. The slingshot, will it work for Nazarick down at the hairpin? That's an adventurous line, Mr. Carey. It did not work.
He's worked out the fast way around this track in these cars, hasn't he, Andy Carey? And if he can hold on to the lead in this last 5 minutes, then we could be headed for a new Just Send It race winner tonight.
Where's your stats on that, Lockie? What number would that make him?
I'll have to go into my stats spreadsheet. 32, I believe.
Not a bad spread of drivers. Those stats brought to you by
simracingoz.com and also Accelerate Data Management as well.
Yep.
Vanessa Gray.
That's the plug I was looking for.
Who puts the spreadsheet together in the background. And I know that she is tuning into the coverage tonight as well, so she'll be very disappointed if we don't give her some love.
I did the incredibly dumb thing of going to plug a company without knowing the company name. Hobson's got his hands full of a Pink Panther right now. After a boot full of a Tiger. This one should probably bite a little bit less. Is it faster? It looks faster. Ah, she didn't quite get that exit, did she? See her really fighting the wheel. Had a big lob of opposite lock at one point in the middle of that corner coming towards the exit, and that's hurt her down the straight.
No, I apologise as well, by the way. If Andy Carey goes on to win, he will become the 23rd at different race winner, not the 32nd.
Wow, I'm disappointed in you, Lachlan.
I do apologise, but I didn't actually have the spreadsheet open at the time.
You knew there was a 2 and a 3 involved, you just didn't know which order.
Correct.
That DRS sign's holding up well.
That's one thing that you definitely don't need in these cars to enhance overtaking capabilities. There's been more than enough overtaking without any need for the DRS, that's for sure.
Speaking of which, that's back next week.
It is. Very much looking forward to Formula One returning for 2 races in a row, in fact, at the Red Bull Ring.
Should offer up an interesting championship picture based off recent form there. We're keeping a close eye on that. 2 laps to go. Or 1.5 laps to go now for the field. The gap is shut to 1.4, but not closing by enough for Stewart to get there before the checkered flag falls on this race. That's the margin visualised for you.
This will be the second last lap.
Yes. Oh no, Carey's looped it, he's lost it, he's gone for the lead of the race. Is that our fault, Lockie?
I think so, yeah. I think we put the commentator's curse on him.
It's not the first time the leader spun at that corner today. Fonserrani did it early, and Carey's done it here. Here's the onboard shot. Look at the wheel work through the middle. Over rotates. Chucks the opposite lock in, but there's nothing he can do.
And he'll be filthy with himself after that because he's fallen off the podium as well. So So Job Stewart now goes to the lead ahead of Jay Cool and Cooper Webster as we get ready to begin our final lap. So now it's Job Stewart who's on target for his second Just Send It race victory and his 6th podium. He is the most capped driver in terms of Just Send It race starts as well, Job Stewart. Still can't afford to make a mistake though, because Jay Cool is sitting there only 0.8 of a second behind and keeping the pressure on. And we've seen just how easy it is, Ryan, in these cars to make unforced errors.
Yeah, the rear end is constantly trying to kill you and come around, as we've seen from so many onboard shots and the exterior cams. You can see that those front tyres are almost always pointed the wrong direction through these corners to counteract the pendulum-like nature of that rear end. As that is Jordan Caruso making up lost ground, going around the outside, or rather attempting to, on Tyler Howard. Harvey Price, the third car in the shot there, the chrome car, as he watches him go wheel to wheel down the back straight. Oh, here we go.
Oh, 3 wide on the run down into the braking zone for turn 5. And Christina Nazarick getting involved in the battle with Brenton Hobson once again as well. Hobson just managing to get down the inside there into turn 5 as we turn our attention back to this battle between Howard, Caruso and Price. Positions 5, 6 and 7. Tyler Howard defending to the inside into turn 8. Caruso going for the high outside line. Oh, and Christina Nazarick almost copping a whack up the back from Cohen Attard as well.
The race winner, Job Stewart, gonna get it done for the second time and Just Send It. He is your winner from Okayama tonight. Oh, drama at the last corner.
Cohen Attard gets turned around.
Is that Caleb Hyde, actually? I've got to admire the turning radius of these cars. They turn around on themselves incredibly quickly. So it looks like Hobson and Hyde never pitted.
Well, that's a turn up for the book, so they've managed to make it through the entire race without refueling. As we see the traditional post-race expression session now kicking into full swing.
That car looks very sad. Take away the overlay. Look at that car. It looks so sad.
And it's not the only one, I can tell you. Here's confirmation of your final results, though. Job Stewart, the race winner, ahead of Jay Cool. Cooper Webster in 3rd. Andy Carey, a disappointed 4th position, spinning out of the lead on the second last lap. And then Jordan Caruso ahead of Tyler Howard. Back to Harvey Price, Brenton Hobson, Christina Nazarick in 9th position, and Caleb Hyde's completing the top 10.
Strong races from Hobson and Hyde, so with that big strategy play. Jordan MULACH coming home 11th, Marcelo Rivera in 12th, Steve Jansen up 9 spots, and Ryan Shooter up 15. Cameron Dance coming up 20, one of the biggest movers in the field. Lee Harrison, Logan Dockett 41st to 17th, not gonna do the math on that. Jonathan Bykoff, Emerson Harvey, and Harrison Dengate running out your top 20.
Then it was Cohen Attard ahead of Jackson Griffith, back to Dylan Moore, Paul Rogers, Jackson Johnston, Daniel Aish, Cade Donnelly, Tim Mitchell, Hayden Felici, and Ian Quast rounding out your top 30.
Was plus 24 for Logan Dockett, by the way. Mark Wicks, 31st. Brad Newman, Kobe Williams, Pete Dunham, all these people finishing many laps down after running into issues. Cameron Gall, Antonio Contarino, who led early. Anthony Contarino, even. Blake Purdy, Isaac Nichols, Aaron Dillon, and Mitchell McLeod.
And then the final 10, Chris Noble ahead of Justin Howe, Matt Lupino, Scott Nolan, Bailey Bell, Michael Skurlock, Dwayne Priest, Reese Cohen, Joel Chigavazira, and Simon Black, our race director, there in position 50.
Well, that was an interesting race.
To borrow a line from Martin Brundle, driving those cars with that setup on that track, like having a fight with an octopus.
Okay. You know, that pretty much sums it up well.
I think that... I think
Your pre-race analogy, if it felt like driving a pogo stick, would also be a good one.
pretty much. Maybe it was like having a fight with an octopus while bouncing on a pogo stick.
Yeah.
On that note, I think it's time for us to wrap out our coverage here. As always, a big thank you to our broadcaster, SimSpeed TV. It's been Scott Fontaine. In the background on the cameras tonight, it's been Ryan Jones joining yours truly, Lachlan Ansell, in commentary. We'll be back next Tuesday evening for more Just Send It. Until then, see you next time. Bye for now.